You're listening to the AfterBuzz TV network, now the largest new media platform on the web, and your #1 source for after-show entertainment.
AfterBuzz TV presents Chatting with Cathy. Sit-down interviews with Hollywood's leading actors, artists, and entrepreneurs. And now, your host of Chatting with Cathy, Cathy Kelly.
Hello everyone, Bing is for doing, and today we are doing another episode of Chatting with Cathy right here on AfterBuzz TV. I'm your host, Cathy Kelly, and today joining me is one of the most amazing people on television. I remember growing up with you, watching you as Carlton on The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, but you have amassed an impressive list of accomplishments, from dancing alongside Michael Jackson to singing with Gladys Knight and Chaka Khan.
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
I mean, it's incredible, you know, the career you've had and the longevity that you've had in this industry. But Alfonso Ribeiro, sorry, I'm like getting tongue-tied, is here with us today. So thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. Yeah, it's great to be here.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I have to say congratulations first off, because your wife Angela is pregnant and
Yes, she is.
about to have your first child together. You already have a daughter.
Yes, I have a daughter, 10 years old, Sienna, and but we are so excited. My wife, unfortunately, has been sick for most of the pregnancy, so it's been a tough one, but still a blessing. You know, we're just over the moon about it and can't wait for our day to happen.
Are you still making like those midnight runs to get weird foods? Like,
you know, because she's had a tough pregnancy, it's not a food thing.
Yeah.
Like she can't eat a lot because whatever she puts in, her body takes what it needs and gets rid of the rest, and not in the normal way. It comes back up. So she's had a tough one that way. But no really weird. I think the other day there was one little weird like request for food. It was like, huh? But it was still not what you hear, you know, not the crazy, but it's been good all along.
Yeah. So during this interview, I want to take it back to the very beginning of your career.
Going back.
You're 8 years old. You grew up in the Bronx, and your parents are from Trinidad and Tobago.
Yes.
Did that have an influence on your life growing up?
I don't know if that had an influence. I mean, you know, obviously my parents met in New York, so but both sides of my family are from Trinidad, and so, you know, it's really just I grew up a New Yorker that had, you know, parents and family from Trinidad. But my grandfather was a calypso singer called the Lord Hummingbird, and so and it's very interesting because they always, like on Wikipedia or whatever, they have it wrong as the Roaring Lion or something like that, and I'm like, that's not right.
I've heard that there are a lot of things wrong on your Wikipedia and your IMDb page.
Yes. For some reason, because people can write in and change the information, like people who just have an, you know, IMDb Pro account will just decide to write something in, and then all of a sudden it's in there, and I'm not, you know, I'm too busy to like waste my time doing it. I'm like, who cares if they get it wrong? But Wikipedia, like, most of it is wrong. So you go, well, why does this exist if it's going to be wrong? Like, people just, like, refer to the Wikipedia. I remember I was playing in a golf tournament one day, and a guy, like, mentioned some, like, I don't even know the word, but some, like, connection to some, like, mentally impaired thing that I was involved with, and I was like,
weird.
What are you talking about? They're like, yeah, it's on your Wikipedia page, look. And it was like someone who just attached it to my Wikipedia page, and like, I'm doing interviews going, I am not connected to this. I'm sorry. No disrespect, you know, but not connected. But growing up, obviously in New York, my aunt was a dancer. She did a show back in the 60s and into the beginning of the 70s called Laugh-In, and that's where Goldie Hawn became popular, and so he was a calypso singer. My mom is actually a wonderful singer, and so it just kind of was one of those things growing up in New York that I just was always singing and dancing and acting and playing the fool in the house, and my parents were like, you know, enough of just us seeing this, let's put you out there. And my first audition was for that TV series called Oh Yay Willie on PBS. And I got it like right away. So it was like day one I started working, and so I was really lucky to just, you know, obviously it was just perfect timing, but to to work from day one has been pretty cool.
Yeah, and you went on from Oh Yay Willie to being on Broadway, the
Yes.
Tap Dance Kid, where it got rave reviews. I mean, I know so many people who remember that role.
Yes, they're all older. Because it was 1983, 84. But yeah, I mean, you know, to get the title role in the Tap Dance Kid was pretty awesome. I mean, you know, the process was kind of interesting because they had 5 kids who all learned how to tap dance together. So it was like the 5 finalists, and whoever did the best would come away with the job. And I actually wasn't the best tap dancer. I just had the singing ability and the charisma, as they said. And I ended up getting the role and learned how to tap dance for like a year, and then came out on Broadway, and then that led to, because I did a commercial for the Tap Dance Kid, which was directed by Michael Peters, who was Michael Jackson's choreographer. And I did another commercial with the director, Bob Giraldi. And so when they were doing the Pepsi commercial, they were like, "We've got a kid who'd be great."
Yeah.
I was like, "Really? All right." And so there I went. I got the role and flew out to Los Angeles and shot the commercial with Michael Jackson.
And you looked like the mini Michael Jackson. You had the leather jacket on and
Absolutely,
everything.
absolutely. Had a little, you know, almost fro, you know, the soft fro. But yeah, it was, and that was great. I mean, obviously meeting Michael Jackson and getting to know him and doing the commercial, and you know, I could do all the moves already, so I didn't have to learn those.
Did you ever struggle trying to balance being a kid, you know, doing your schoolwork, having friends, and having this successful career in the industry?
Yeah, I mean, you know, I've looked at it to, you know, one real way. I mean, at the end of the day, did I miss out on a lot of things in my life that other kids had the opportunity to do? Absolutely. But I also, you know, I had experiences that those kids never got or never will have a chance to get. And so I look at it as a very positive thing because I got to do amazing things. But yeah, it's always a balancing act. You know, it's like, how do you explain to your buddies, you know, hey, I know you guys are all going to the park after school, but I've got to go home and do homework because I got to go to the theater tonight.
Yeah.
You know, you don't really relate at 12. You know, so there was a different world there. But like I said, you know, I was fortunate enough to have kids that, like my understudies in Tap Dance Kid, you know, they were kids also, so we hung out. And then when I came out here to California later, after that, to do Silver Spoons, Ricky Schroeder and I, Corky Pigeon, we became great friends. And so
you had peers who were also in the industry.
In the same circumstance. And basically, you know, we were on a lot full of kids in the business. I mean, Todd Bridges, Gary Coleman, Alyssa Milano. They were, you know, we were all kind of together, the whole Facts of Life crew. So we all kind of knew each other and hung out with each other, and so you had, you know, people that you knew that you could connect to that had similar circumstances.
Yeah. So you did several TV movies, and then you also had the difficult decision of choosing to be a regular on A Different World or doing the pilot Fresh Prince of Bel-Air.
Yes.
You ended up choosing Fresh Prince. So what led to that decision?
Well, I did a guest spot on A Different World, and you know, it was one of those things where it was like, this is a great show, really fun. You know, it's on TV already, you know, it's successful, but coming into it, I felt like, you know, I would be that, you know, character coming in season 5 that wouldn't be a focal point of the show. And not that I was going to be a focal point on Fresh Prince, but it could be developed. And I already knew Will. So it was for me pretty clear that this kid is really talented. Yes, he's not an actor, but he's got incredible personality. So and he's a hard worker. So, you know, difficult to make the choice on a pilot versus an actual series that once you did it, you were going to be working. But I felt really positive about what the show was and the script, and made the choice, and I guess it was a good one.
And I mean, you made that role iconic, and I heard that there was actually the president of NBC didn't want you for that role originally.
Well, I had done the pilot,
yeah,
and Warren Littlefield was the incoming president. Brandon Tartikoff, who I think was amazing as the president of NBC. He was actually the one who signed me for Silver Spoons back in '84. he was going, and so Warren was basically coming in saying, I'm going to make my mark. I'm going to say what, make some changes that make it my thing.
Do some presidential things.
Yes, I'm going to make some decisions. And one of his first decisions was that he felt that I needed to be recast, and they went out and tried to recast the role, and the executive producers and Will and the directors and everybody all kind of felt this was a bad choice.
Yeah, they all wanted you there.
And I think they kind of made it so that they had no other choices. To kind of save, that old Hollywood, we're looking for somebody. We seem to not be able to find anybody.
Yeah.
We can't see. But they went ahead and made it happen, and obviously I kept the role. And then like 6 weeks later, Warren came onto the set and actually pulled me aside and said, I want to apologize because I think you're doing an amazing job, and you have the full support of the network, and we apologize for putting you through that because you're doing an amazing job. And that was wonderful. I felt great about it, but going through that period of like, oh my God, I just lost my job. Why? What happened?
How did you stay positive during that time?
Well, the reality is that phone call came, and then it also came with other phone calls from the executive producer, from Will, from other people that also knew what was going on and said, but we fully support you, and we think we're going to be able to get through this with you still having this job. So they never said that, but they kind of, made it clear enough that they were rooting for me.
Yeah.
And that their support was all behind me, and that was enough to keep me positive.
And you brought so much to that character. I heard that in the script it actually just said Carlton does dance, and you're the one that came up with the inspiration for it.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, it's like when you're creating a role, or in the beginning, phases of a TV show, everything is new. How, what type of drink do you drink? What do you, how do you stand? How do you walk? Are you a singer? Are you not a singer? Can you dance? Can you not dance? You're creating all of these things, and for me, I always felt like let's make the character something that you can utilize your talents to help bring that to the character. But yes, it just said Carlton dances, and I'm like, well, okay, how would he dance? How would this character dance? What would be his move? What would be his style? And at that point, it popped into my head, he's the whitest black guy on the planet. So, even like Urkel was just like a nerdy nerd. He wasn't a white nerd or black. He was just a caricature nerd. But Carlton was actually more of a real person. And I said, let's make him a little, a white guy. All right, so how would the white guy dance? And I went, all right, Eddie Murphy had this, the Delirious video where he had the white man dance, and the white man dance was that dance. And then Courtney Cox in the Bruce Springsteen video jumps up on stage dancing in the dark, and she does that, that dance. And I went, okay, that's the core of this dance. Now let's make it the character, breaking your table. Let's make it the character and make it my own, and that's what I did. And obviously people fell in love with it, because even today I can't stop getting around the dance. I heard you get
asked every single day, so I'm not even going to ask you. I remember trying to do that dance when I was younger, and like I was the white girl version of the white guy dance. I couldn't even do it.
When you were younger, you're a baby now. What are you talking about? When I was younger, you're still young.
So on The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, you also had the opportunity to direct an episode.
Yes, I did.
Which you became very passionate about directing and ended up going to film school.
Yes.
What was the decision in going to film school if you already had a career in the industry?
Well, I felt like, there's having a career because you're on a TV show, and having a career because you've studied and learned the job. And yes, having that opportunity was important, because the hardest job to get is your first. And so being able to work that into a contract is always what you want to do if you can. But at the same time, the show was ending, and I wanted to be able to go and, lay down my resume to do other jobs, and jobs that I'm not already connected to. And I felt like it was really important for me to really learn the art of directing and really what it entails. The lighting, working the cameras, understanding how the cameras work, loading a camera, editing. What you learn in film school is that you actually work backwards. You don't work from the script to the editing room. You work from the editing room back to the script. So if you understand how this thing is going to edit, now you know how to shoot it. Now you know what you need in the script in terms of writing. You know what everything is. And so for me, it was really important to learn all of the technical side of directing, because I had done it just from the creative side.
Yeah.
You know, being on set your whole life, it's like, okay, you stand here, you move here, you know, it's choreography. Well, that choreography needs to also be choreographed with the cameras and understanding how they work together, and the lighting, and you know, and obviously in sitcoms it's less technical. You know, the whole set is already lit. You're not lighting specifically for a shot. Understanding your lenses, how does one lens make someone look better than another lens, and understanding all of that helps you create your own style as a director.
There's a lot more that goes into it than just yelling action and cut.
Action and cut is literally the last part of it.
That's what you see as a outsider.
From the outsider, action! Yes, I'm the boss, and I look good doing it. No, it's all that other stuff that you have to do that people don't really get to see. And the reality is that I had wonderful directors on Fresh Prince, on Silver Spoons that I learned from. But you can never learn everything that you can learn in class. And so I felt it was important to do that.
Yeah, and you went on to direct other shows as well. You did 4 episodes of Shake It Up.
I did 5. So I did 6.
Okay.
7 episodes total of Shake It Up, and you know, I've done a bunch of different shows. I mean, it just keeps rolling. Every year I'm trying to do more and more and keep it going.
What do you think of the next generation of stars, since you kind of had similar roles where there was dancing and acting involved?
Well, I think the girls that were on Shake It Up. I mean, obviously the show's not coming back, but Zendaya and Bella Thorne are wonderful little actresses. I say little even though they're taller than me, but they're wonderful actresses, wonderful dancers, and excited to see what they're going to do in their careers, because it's really wonderful when you see that kind of talent. You just hope that the families, and I know Zendaya and Bella both have wonderful families, but it's really so important that the families take a major role even into the young adult years, not just the teenage years, because that, to me, that's the key to lifelong success. It's interesting that Amanda Bynes, what's going on with her is like, her parents were kind of void for a long time in her life, and you see Bieber, and the parents are not really involved, and it's amazing what has happened to Miley, since her parents got a separation, right? Things start happening, and that home life is so important to what goes on in your life as a young adult. Regardless of whether you're an actor or a singer or whatever, or just a regular kid, that home life really is the base for all that happens later for these young adults. And I think it's so important that they that the parents are involved. And
was it your home life that you attribute to having the longevity in your career and staying grounded?
Absolutely. I mean, I always say this: my dad was a cop. Okay, if I messed up, but he was understanding. He was, we talked, we communicated wonderfully. My dad was also my manager, and so there was basically, I would say we had 3 different relationships. We had father-son, where I obeyed. We had, client-manager, where he obeyed, and we talked. And then we had a friendship where we could share what was going on in our lives and what we thought and what we felt, and so we had a great relationship. And I really do owe everything that I've gotten in my life to my parents. I wouldn't have any of this without the support and that strong base and home life that I had with them. It's everything for I think every young adult moving into whatever business or career they want to do. That home life is super important.
Now that you are a father, has your daughter expressed any interest in being in the industry?
She has. I don't think she's ready for the hard work. She works incredibly hard as a gymnast. She actually won state last year in Tennessee, which is where she lives, in her division, and she's just wonderful at gymnastics, and so she does the hard work there. But it's hard when you focus so much on one thing to be able to see yourself doing it in everything you do. So I don't think she's fully ready for that in terms of herself, but she's wonderfully talented. She sings, she plays piano, she dances. So there's a time when that might come for her if she desires it. But I think we're not there yet for her, only because it really is tough work. And when she's come to set and watched me work when I've been directing, especially Shake It Up, it's like she's like, wow, this is actually, it's a lot of work. Like, you know, you get told no more often than yes. In this business, and a lot of people are not ready for that. I think in society as a whole, you know, people are not ready for no. You know, I was listening to something, especially a child. But I think really what is happening is that the adults today are not capable of saying no or dealing with no. I was listening to a radio program the other day, and they were given this advice, and a woman came on talking about how, you know, the father of her kid is no longer around, and she's dating, and she didn't feel comfortable with this man in her life who'd been there for 3 years disciplining her son. And I was like, and the radio announcer was like, no, I totally agree. Like, don't let anybody discipline your son. Don't let him do that. And I went, whoa, that's so wrong. First of all, when I grew up, it took a village. Right? The concept of it takes a village is about understanding that you need several people in that kid's life to be able to tell him no. Because guess what? In the real world, there's going to be a lot of people telling him no. And if he doesn't learn how to deal with it as a kid, he's never going to learn how to deal with it, and he's going to be a spoiled adult. So we have to start understanding that, and I think it's so interesting with young people, because it's really not young people's fault. I never blame a child for what happens to that child. I blame the adults that are around that child. And so we really need to start educating our adults that get rid of the ego. By the way, you might not be the best parent. It's a possibility that the way you actually, you know, parent isn't really that good.
I love people's excuse when they say, well, there's no handbook when you get a child. I was like, there are so many books out there on how to raise a kid.
There's no handbook because there's no one way, and there's not one type of child, but there's enough reading to figure it out. There's also enough to understand that if you utilize the people that are in your life, we all know what right and wrong is, right? Like that's never changed. So if your kid is doing wrong, is it necessary that only you tell them it's wrong? Or should anybody who knows what right and wrong is should tell them it's wrong? Because when you're an adult, guess what? It isn't your parent who is going to sit there and tell you you're doing something wrong. It might be the police. It might be your boss. It might be your coworker. And how do you react to that? You're not preparing your kid to be an adult. And I've always said, because, you know, my ex-wife had a daughter and I was coming in as a step parent. Here's what's interesting. Your job is not to be a friend to your child. Your job is to get that child ready for being an adult. So rather than allowing our feelings to get involved, how about we figure out what's the definition of a good adult? Let's paint a picture of what we think a good adult looks like and then work toward that.
Yeah.
And that becomes a little easier, in my opinion. These are my opinions, and I've got some opinions.
You're so
Ladies and gentlemen,
about it.
my opinions on AfterBuzz.
I mean, we are in that day and age of the short-lived celebrity, the 15 minutes of fame. Do you attribute that to people not wanting to put in the hard work?
Well, I mean, there's many reasons to that. I think today being a celebrity isn't connected to hard work. Being a celebrity is sometimes, especially with reality TV, it's connected to just being crazy or wild or willing to do whatever it takes to be famous, and you will do whatever it takes.
Yeah.
Celebrity in this decade isn't celebrity in the 80s, right? Because it's not based in anything. You can become, and no disrespect to the Kardashians or to Paris Hilton or any of them, they're famous for being famous. They're not famous because they actually have a specific talent. Their talent is they have this personality and they're willing to put themselves out there, and that's what makes them famous, which is its own thing. Not everybody's willing to do that, and I have to respect them for what they do. But that's not what talent has been based on. It's been based on, can you sing? Can you act? Can you dance?
Yeah.
What can you actually do that is considered a talent? So because of that change, there's a different world.
Do you get upset because you are so multifaceted and talented? Like, you're a singer, you're a dancer, you're an actor, you're a host now,
Yes.
a director. Do you get upset at those people that are...
You know, I don't get upset because I look at everything like, hey, if you're able to be successful doing what you're doing, congratulations. Like, I'm not mad at anybody for doing what they do.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, people get upset with that because they're like, what about me? What about, like, this? They're messing up my life. No, just keep working hard at what you're doing.
Yeah.
Don't worry about them. Don't worry about what the next person's doing. Do you? So I'm never upset at that. I actually co-hosted with Kris Jenner a few weeks ago.
I saw that, yeah.
And you know, I don't look at what they're doing as a negative. You know, look, more power to them. You know, if they're creating success for their family and their children and their children's children, good for them. You know what? Like, why is that wrong? That has happened for decades, right? How many kids of entertainers end up being famous again, right? Well, isn't that nepotism? How many executives of other executives end up running their father's or their mom's business, right? Or do we look at that and say, well, that's wrong. Why should he have this opportunity to run his parents' business? We don't do that. What we do is we talk about it when it's in show business, right? We talk about Jaden Smith because Will Smith is pushing Jaden Smith on the world. Well, okay.
That is their family business.
That's
They're
what
better
they
prepared.
do.
They're prepared from when they're young. Yeah.
Absolutely. They have seen this world. And at the end of the day, they can't get out of that world. The kids have no choice to be in that world. So why not, if they're actually good at it, give them their opportunity? But we only look at that in show business. We don't look at that in the real world. We don't look at that when it's a law firm
Yeah.
and the son comes up and he goes to law school and learns how to be a lawyer and then takes over the business and runs up through the system faster than that other lawyer who's not connected. Well, guess what? That's the way the world works.
Yeah.
Sorry if you weren't born into that, but that's not the person's fault. I just like breaking stuff. I like breaking stuff. It's not that
Use your
person's
hands
fault.
when you get passionate about
talk.
it.
I'm almost Italian. You know, so it's like, why is it that person's fault? It's not. It's not Jaden's fault.
Yeah.
That he was born to that family, but actually Jaden is talented, right? So why not give this kid his opportunity?
I love
and
that
why
perspective.
why won't the world just accept that, like, it's not Will Smith pushing his kid on the world. It's Will Smith giving his kid the ability and the option to be what he can be, utilizing what he's already learned. He kind of has some info that most people don't have. So Jaden is growing up and Willow's growing up with more info than the rest of those kids. That's nothing. There's nothing wrong with that. And I would say to anybody who has a problem with that, well then, okay, did your parent help you at all in anything? Did your parents give you an opportunity? Then you must say no to that. You must say no if my dad has a cleaners and I'm taking over the cleaners business, which gives me an opportunity. No, you can't do that. Can't do that business. You need to go do something else. Really?
Yeah. My mom prepared me as a scientist my whole life, and then I chose hosting.
So now you can argue. You can argue.
So getting back to your career.
Yes, enough about all this other stuff. See what happens when I talk about kids? I go off on a 10-minute tangent.
You had never really thought about hosting before, but you were presented with an opportunity for Catch 21.
Yes.
Where you ended up filming this game show, 40 episodes in 8 days. A lot of people outside the industry don't really realize that acting and hosting are two completely separate entities.
Absolutely.
Did you find any challenges in that?
Well, I mean, the biggest challenge for me started with my voice. Like, you don't realize how much you talk on those shows. Like, when you're acting, you have a certain number of lines, and that's how much you're going to talk that day. Well, when you're hosting a game show, you're talking all day. And when you're shooting 6 of them in a day, you're talking all day. And I mean, I did a show called Your Big Break for Dick Clark Productions before Catch 21, but it wasn't like Catch 21.
That was more like a X Factor.
Yes,
American Idol
it
thing,
was more like that, and it wasn't as much, and it was really kind of just the ins and outs. Whereas that show, Catch 21, was just, I mean, I talked every day. I mean, I had to go to the doctor constantly and deal with my voice.
Really?
Yeah, because I mean, I would lose my voice.
Wow.
Because you're shooting 6 episodes a day, and you're day after day after day doing that. There's no way to talk that much and not lose your voice. And people don't realize that talking is actually harder on your voice than singing. So that was the biggest issue. But really, the greatest thing that job taught me was understanding gameplay, understanding how to navigate and keep things moving in the game. And so it was a great lesson for myself to then obviously now take me to Spellmageddon, where it's like, it's wonderful that I have this information, and now I'm comfortable in it, and I can allow myself on Spellmageddon to just let it fly, let it have fun, and let my personality ride while still keeping the game show moving.
Yeah. And I'm excited. We're going to get to do a challenge
yes,
from
we are.
Spellmageddon in a couple minutes.
We're going to see your spelling skills, girl.
Or lack thereof.
I'm with you. I would have no shot. I could never be a contestant on my own show.
Yeah. So we've talked about all of the accomplishments that you have in your career, everything that you've done. Are there further goals that you hope to accomplish?
I mean, I think there's always goals. I haven't really spent time going, this is what I want to do. I mean, ultimately, I enjoy everything I do. I enjoy my acting. I enjoy my hosting. I enjoy when I'm directing. I enjoy when I'm actually writing and creating. I have a partner, and we create TV shows. We're in the process of going out and trying to sell one. And so for me, it's all around. I love what I do. I love all that I do. And so for me, it's really, I'm on this journey day by day, just moving forward and looking at what's the next opportunity. For me, it's like, it's the world. It's all out there. It's for me, wherever I can go, it'll be wonderful.
Yeah. And in addition to everything that you do, you also take the time to give back to the community. I know that you've worked with Fresh Start
Surgical Gifts. Yeah, I'm the national spokesperson for the charity, and what we do is we do anywhere between 600 and 700 surgeries a year, and we find kids from all over the world. We fly them actually down in San Diego, and we give them plastic surgery to give them a fresh start in life. When you have these little kids that have these facial deformities, we're such a image-based society that when you see a kid that has a scar or a cleft palate, or their dentistry is teeth are all messed up, and whether it's genetic or by accident, it's incredible to see what happens for these kids when they have their face put back together and they look wonderful and they're pretty again.
Their confidence just skyrockets.
I mean, what they're able to do in their life is unbelievable. I mean, we had a little girl from Asia, and the story was that her dad thought that her mom had cheated because the baby didn't really look like him. And he took a machete to the family, and so this little infant was cut up. And we flew her to the States, and we put her back together. I mean, at the end of the day, and I think 15 or 16 surgeries later, she was a wonderful little girl. And like I said, we do anywhere between 600 and 700 surgeries a year.
Incredible.
Doing that, and it's a wonderful thing. I had the opportunity when I did Celebrity Duets. When I won that, I was able to give them $100,000, and it's a wonderful charity. But if anybody's looking to give, freshstartsurgicalgifts.org, go check it out, see what we do. It's amazing what we do, and so proud of all the doctors, and it's all all of our surgeons donate their time and their energy, and it's wonderful.
Why is it important for you to give back?
Because I feel like I'm so lucky. I really do. I feel like I've had such a wonderful career and wonderful opportunities. I feel like, there are so many people who do not have the opportunities in life find their own happiness, to end up in a place where, you know, they can move forward into their life. And like I said, we're such an image-based society that to give these kids an opportunity, you know, to feel beautiful. You know, everybody is beautiful, but when you feel it, when you look at yourself in the mirror and you feel beautiful, the things that you're able to do is unbelievable.
Yeah.
And to me, it really isn't about the exterior. It's about what's inside, and I think that's what really, you know, has kept me with this charity for, you know, almost a decade now. They're just so wonderful, and I meet these kids, and whenever we do any of our galas or auctions and golf tournaments, it's just you get to meet these kids, and boy, they're amazing.
Yeah, I love that. So when you're not hosting, giving back to charity, all this stuff, when you do get free time, what are you doing? I know you golf a lot.
I golf.
Is that it?
That's it. That's like my wife says. You know, she learned how to play golf because I am like she'd be like I'd be a golf widow, right? You'd be off playing golf every day, and I would never see you.
Has she gotten good?
You know, I actually taught her, and when she first started playing, she was shooting in like the 120s. I got her into the 90s. So. But then once the baby, you know, bump started, she had to put the clubs away for a little bit. It's kind of hard to swing when the belly is, you know, in the way of where your hands need to be. And so she's so small that she's all belly.
What's your score normally?
I'm a 1 handicap, so I shoot low 70s.
Wow,
a lot.
That's impressive.
A couple 60s.
How did you get into golfing?
A couple friends of mine just was like, "Yo, let's go play golf." I was like, "What's that?" I had no idea what it was. I'd never heard of golf growing. I mean, you know, when you grow up in the Bronx, it ain't like, you know, you're going to go to the golf course. Hey guys, let's go to the golf course.
Want to play 18 holes?
A little 18 today, you know? I was like, no, I'm playing, you know, I'm shooting hoop, I'm playing baseball. But at the end of the day, like a couple guys, they were like, yo, let's do this. I was like, all right. We went to the driving range, and I was hitting the ball over the fence. And they were like, dude, come on. You know, you've played before. I was like, yo, I've never played. I've never even held a club.
Beginner's
luck.
I was
like, how do you hold it? And they were showing me how to hold it. And right. Well, you know, I do an overlap, which is different than, like, some people do the interlock,
I cross my fingers.
right? And so there's a couple different ways. Jim Furyk does the double overlap, which is really what I ended up going to. And now I'm back to a single overlap. But, you know, they told me how to hold the club, and, like, you know, it's like this. You got to keep your left arm straight, and then I'm over the fence. Now, sometimes it was over the fence, sometimes it was over that fence, and sometimes over that fence. But then I got into it, fell in love with the game, and then continued to get better. Took some lessons. I wish I'd have taken the lessons earlier, because then I got better earlier. But took lessons, and then my handicap just dropped. I just like really understood the game aspect of it, and I just love it.
That's so cool.
Played yesterday. I'm gonna play tomorrow.
So golfing is a challenge, and today we are actually going to do a challenge from Spellmageddon.
Nice segue.
So what have you got for us?
We have some fun stuff. We got what I'm gonna do is okay. So we play the game.
Yeah.
I'm gonna give you words to spell. We're gonna put 60 seconds on the clock. And as you're trying to spell the words, which is what our game is, we try to distract the contestants. Now, on our real show, we distract our contestants. We have a game called Zapped, where we, you know, attach some things to them that will zap them with electricity. Yeah. We have a mic that shoots water in their face. Blue icy slush gets dumped on their back. We get fire extinguishers that go off. There's one game, the dunk tank. We fill it up with ice. Then we fill it up with water. We let it sit for like 15 minutes so it gets really cold. And then we shoot balls at the target while they're trying to spell. Every time the ball hits a target, we dunk them into the water. And they're trying to spell. And it's like you take these people who are really good spellers. Some of them are champions. Some of them are like people who have, like, you know, second, third place in their spelling bees growing up. And it's incredible to watch their reactions while they're trying to do this. They're typically laughing or screaming or whatever. We've got one game, which I think is fun. We put them on a big fork, right? And we attach them to this fork, and there's a big pie that sits there on the stage. And rather than pie in the face, we do the face in the pie as they're trying to spell. So they're just getting slammed into the pie.
That sounds like my kind of challenge.
It was totally fun. We put one where we put them on this board, and we spin them around, and we give them a meal. You give them a meal. We've got these cannons that shoot the meal at them. So they spaghetti and meatballs, salad.
What
ice
a
cream
delicious
sundaes,
way to
right?
potentially win $10,000.
Man, all you gotta do if you're hungry in the middle of spelling, you just open your mouth. You will get some. So but it's so much fun. I think of the show as more of a comedy show than it is a spelling show or game show, because it really is just funny. You laugh your way through the hour. I mean, for me as a host, it's like the most fun I can have working, because ultimately it's like I'm laughing all day long. So. You're up. Are you ready? Do you feel like you can do it?
I told you before, I get a little nervous when I'm doing challenges.
Right, but this is easy. This is easy. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get these words.
Okay.
Right? Penny's going to bring me these words here.
Okay.
Right? We'll put 60 seconds on the clock when we're ready. In the studio, they're going to try to distract you. They're going to shoot some stuff at you.
Okay.
So you're not going to know what's happening, but we'll have some fun with it, okay? So as soon as I get all this stuff ready, we're going to be ready to go to play the AfterBuzz TV version of Spellmageddon.
Okay.
And you guys know where this is. This is on ABC Family on Wednesday nights, 9, 8 Central. Let's put some goggles so we don't want you to,
Mom, don't judge me if I
beautiful
get the
eyes.
right
We don't
one.
want to mess those eyes up.
Woo.
Okay, so are we ready? Do we feel good? Are we set? And they're rushing right now. They're like, oh, we're trying to get it ready. We thought we were going to stop.
How do the goggles look?
The goggles look good.
Yeah.
They look good. Really, it's about making sure that, you don't get hurt.
Okay.
Right?
And
we don't want to hurt
spelling the word
anybody.
right. That's the most important part.
Okay, 60 seconds on the clock. We're going to go, and that says, here we go. And first word, diaphragm.
D-I-A-P-H-A...
That's incorrect. Let's go.
Okay.
Hieroglyphics.
H-I-R-A-P-H... No, I got that.
Incorrect. Psychedelic.
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 B-S-Y-A-D-E-L-I-C.
Incorrect. All right. One a little easier. Believable.
B-E-L-I-E-V-A... I got to my mouth. Believer. B-L-E.
Even though you went backwards, I'll give you that. Believable. And that's 60 seconds. So, you got one correct. You only attempted 4 words. But wow. That's
intense.
a great looking mic you got there.
Thank you.
You can take the goggles off
Okay.
now if you want to.
I'm going to test you.
No, you're not.
How do you spell Cathy?
Cathy. C-A-T-H-Y.
Awesome. You got it right.
Now, I had to go with that because
I
it was
know,
right
you
there
can
on the
see it
board.
on the screen.
I actually didn't look. I will say that I didn't look, but I did see it earlier, so I knew it was a C, not a K.
That was so much fun. I can't even imagine how the actual people do it. I was going to take a sip of my water, but it's a little bit silly stringy.
I didn't sip this. So I'm going to be a gentleman and give you my water.
Thank you.
Because I didn't take a sip of it yet. And but how much fun. It's a fun show. ABC Family, Wednesday nights, 9, 8 Central. It's so much fun. I think, everybody who watches the show just totally loves it. And we need y'all to watch. Watch the show.
So you segued great into our shameless plug section. People now know where to watch Spellmageddon.
Yes.
Where else can they find you?
Well, hopefully they don't try to find me at the house. That's it. That's what's. I mean, obviously, all my reruns are on, but ABC Family. That's where you got to find me.
Okay.
Every Wednesday night.
And you can.
Come on, shameless plug. Come on, ABC Family. 9, 8 Central Wednesdays.
Do it. Do it.
Spellmageddon. Shall I say it again? Spellmageddon. Spellmageddon.
Spellmageddon.
ABC Family. Spellmageddon. Wednesday, 9, 8 Central.
Okay. Well, you can find all Chatting with Cathy episodes on iTunes and YouTube. You can find me on Twitter at Catherine Kelly. Find Alfonso on Twitter.
On Twitter at Alfonso_Ribeiro. Awesome. And you got to remember, it's RIBEIRO. Got to get that right.
E before I.
E before I when it's after Alfonso.
Okay. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks,
It was
Cathy.
so much fun.
Awesome.
From Bing.com, executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff. We would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later!
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.